So without further ado, here's Joe Kendrick.
Hello everyone, my name is Joe Kendrick. A year and a half ago, I wrote a musical called Camp Creator.
At last, the day is here.
A coming-of-age story about a teenage singer, Melody Bell, who gets to discover herself at a special summer arts camp where she meets other creative kids and learns how to collaborate, which I've recently had performed as a stage reading at the Homewood Theatre.
I know just what you mean to hold on to
This
a
is
dream.
a show that is new and different, and also the story is so relatable to young people and trying to find a place where they feel like they belong and a place that cares about them and their art.
If you speak something that's true and you speak it well, it'll resonate with people and people will want that. And people do crave, even in this crazy world of ours, I think people crave the genuine.
This was a great project because it was so collaborative.
I'm excited for people to see your work on this one, and I hope they enjoy the live reading.
But Camp Creator came from, this is a story idea I've had for a while, because it's the kind of place that I wish had existed when I was a kid. If I can at the very least get you all to imagine it through a story, then I think that's worth something. And I've always wanted to write musicals. I've been a musician, and I've been doing storytelling for a while, and putting it together in this way has made a lot of sense for a while. It just hasn't been practical.
Joe Kendrick is a musician and filmmaker with a long history of musical storytelling, but only a short history of musical theater. With an interest in writing musicals, he'd produced different musical short films here and there, but he struggled to defend starting to write a full-length show without confidence that he had the connections or resources to actually get something staged. As a filmmaker, the logistics came first, and if a project wasn't producible, he wouldn't start it, but he wanted to change what was producible. Maybe Joe wasn't sure what it would take to get something on stage, but he was comfortable producing music. He knew that if he wrote a musical, he could at least record it, if nothing else. That's what fueled Camp Creator, that no matter what, he knew he could bring it to life as a concept album, and that was enough for him to feel like he could finally give himself permission to start writing his first full-length show.
When I decided, I want to start taking a show seriously and write it, Camp Creator was an idea I had, but I always felt like it was risky because it wasn't connected to anything. It wasn't an IP. It wasn't history. I want to talk about young people expressing themselves, how important that is, put that all into a story. And I wrote it in 2024. I started getting ready for the stage reading summer 2025. It was performed in December. I started writing it last June, and I didn't finish until September. I wrote some of the music alongside Kobe Staten and Brenda Craik. Character artwork was actually drawn by Rachel Dowd, who's here. So thank you so much for being a part of the project. And
there were many collaborators that made Camp Creator possible. One of the early necessities was sharing the story with another writer. That is where frequent collaborator Alexander Latham came on board to help craft the story.
I've worked with Joe before on a variety of projects for, nearly 10 years now, I'd say. A decade's worth of Joe collaboration under my belts. I do some writing. I contributed in Camp Creator, not really through writing any particular scenes, but just kind of offering my own advice on the process and working through the project as we did read-throughs, as we did various drafts. But it was really nice to, like I said, be able to help with those, like, some critical story decisions. Because, like, Melody, obviously, like, I think I helped decide, like, how does she get into Camp Creator, right? And then even like the conflict with Walt as well. I played a role in that kind of story decision.
And then I finished all the sheet music in December, and that's when I announced it. Because until then, you can start working on a project, and I don't want to, talk about it if I'm not sure it's going to get done. But as soon as I finished the sheet music last December, I was like, okay, I can tell people I'm working on it. And then I was working on backing tracks. I'm very proud of a lot of the music, but there's stuff that I will admit I was naive about.
Joe already had a background in composing soundtracks, and so producing the instrumental tracks for the show wasn't daunting. But it was a big task, and he had to find the sound. After composing the show's overture, he felt confident grounding the music of Camp Creator in something jazzy and yet cinematic. It was old school with a modern twist. The tracks were produced digitally, using virtual instruments. They were meant to feel big and cinematic, but all of it only came out of a laptop. Although the show uses a full, professional-sounding orchestra, at the end of the day, it was just a passionate, independent artist working in their bedroom.
And since then, I've been working on a concept album for the show. We've been preparing for this.
Music can be very universal, where it can be, even though obviously there's lyrics to these songs. I think just like when we talk about just something as simple as like a texture change, or an additional instrument comes in or an instrument leaves, like, and that can just say so much. Every time you would share something with me, and maybe I didn't always like say it, but I remember always being just very impressed with like, oh wow, like that, this feels it feels professional. And like you talk about, like, just every character's song feels really unique, just because of, like you said, just being willing to say, like, well, let's give them each an instrument group and be very conscious, and not just do that for fun, but to say, well, no, this actually can help characterize them.
Music it can be kind of intangible sometimes, and it's just it just has to be honest, and when it's not. But also, it's like, especially with musical storytelling, where it's like, well, then you can use music for a function. And so that balance, and especially with musical theater, I've encountered that's like, well, I want to make sure every song I do has a role in the story. That comes with a lot of intent, but I never want that to compromise the pure expression of just feeling a song in your heart.
Where in the music does your character change, and like what beat maybe is different, and the keys, and it was just like a whole other thing that I did not think about before, which is really fun. The big moments that happen in musicals are communicated through song and through like, oh, hit that high note, or like, oh, kick your face, which is really, really awesome and really, really cool. And it never crossed my mind that like all the instrumentation and the different ways like chords are constructed have a very specific meaning. I was like, oh, it just sounds pretty. And I was like, no, that it actually is very important, the way they construct the score. And so that was cool, being able to like physically look at the score you gave me and see the key changes and see like the different jumps and different motifs of each character and how they showed up, and places I couldn't even necessarily hear, but I could see, oh, that's Melody's motif, or oh, that's Dr. Kingsley.
The two songs that I think about more than anything are What Will It Take and Dreams of Silver Screens. I think about those two songs so much, especially What Will It Take. It like lives in my bones, honestly, because like the first time I heard her sing that, I was like, uh-oh, this is amazing.
My spirit's only moved by music alone. There's nothing I felt that's as strong.
So, the show was written, the concept album was in the works, but how did the staged reading come to life? How did the Homewood Theatre get on board?
My name's Lexi. I am the education director here, and I got involved with this by scrolling through TikTok.
Feel free to reach out if you want to be a part of helping make the concept album happen, or if you have any thoughts on what it could look like to try to get this project actually on the stage in the future too.
Your page came across, it was about Camp Creator. You were asking if people wanted to listen to it. Anything can always benefit from just a live reading with actors who are in the space together, reacting to each other, and even better if you can get an audience in there to kind of interact to your things.
I know I think I said this in rehearsal. Lexi is, not only do we go, back as far as middle school, the first gig that I ever played as a pianist for another singer was playing with Lexi. And so it all starts there, and now I'm gigging in Nashville, and it means a lot. It means a lot, even little shows and little moments that, might feel humble looking back, but it's just like any little thing can go a long way and just give you the confidence, and especially anyone that makes you feel seen for your talent when maybe you haven't had opportunities before.
The biggest thing this is for Joe to get experience to listen to the songs and the dialogue and make changes that he wants to before it becomes a real staged musical.
I love doing first readings of scripts. I think it's so much fun, especially when you're in a group like that.
But having something in front of you that has not been put physically on a stage, it really makes you think a little bit more creatively.
Trusting the process and like letting go and knowing that there are no expectations because no one else has ever done this before, so there's nothing to compare myself to.
We are creating the first renditions of these characters, so if anyone else plays these characters, it's us. Those are the original ones.
Getting to be on this side of the process, I'm usually hearing musicals that are completely finished that I'm working for my students and all of that, so it was really cool to be on kind of the founding part of something and getting to hear things that may be ever-changing.
Bringing Camp Creator to the Homewood Theatre would be a chance to see the show in motion, see what worked, what didn't. But it took about 6 months of planning and preparation to make it happen.
kind of our biggest hurdle that we have at the Homewood Theatre is that our space gets used like nobody's business, because it is one stage that we have with one dressing room and one lobby. If there's something happening, that is either the only thing that's happening or we are like trading off spaces. And so there are days where in the morning there's a rehearsal, in the afternoon there's classes, and at night there's another rehearsal or a show. And so we are kind of always having to figure out, okay, if this person's coming in and they're performing this day and they need these days to rehearse, how can we fit these people in who are doing a show next week and also rehearse them at the same time? So I think a lot of it in the very beginning was, okay, how can we make sure that Camp Creator gets the time it needs to rehearse and perform? Then I think kind of our next thing was, who's going to be in it? Do we want to bring in some local talent? Can we find some local people?
Hello, my name is Jean-Leah Atkins. I played Melody.
This is kind of a fun story because I became involved with Camp Creator through a mutual friend of yours and mine. One day randomly, this person hit me up and was like, hello, one of my friends has just wrote a musical and is holding auditions, thinking about putting it on in Birmingham, and that's local to you. Like, you should consider auditioning. And immediately that was enticing. I was like, oh yeah. And was not expecting to get the lead. Not that I doubt my abilities, but I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, it'll be fun. Like, I'll be ensemble. The cast list comes out. I was like, oh, let's go.
I'm Isabel. I play Audrey. My favorite cheese is the goat cheese with honey from Trader Joe's. It's very yummy.
Hi, I'm Isabel. Every once in a while, Lexi will send out like, hey, we're looking for these people, or we're doing this kind of event. And I saw she had sent you my way. So I haven't done a musical in a while. It's been a while. I mostly do plays and film. And so it was like getting back in the musical game was a little bit scary, but we did it. And it was fun. I'm really glad I did.
I must be frank with you.
What is it?
I'm terrified to act.
You'll do
I hardly
fine.
know my lines.
When I find out about like independent projects, I'm really eager to join because in my experience, those projects are where you have the most creative leeway.
So many of the people that were in it with us were people that have taught for me, or I knew them from cabarets that we've done, or Lauren Parrish teaches several of my students voice. And so like it was just all these little random kind of things that I think this person who knows this person and I can get in contact with them. And I really love that because I feel like no connection is super hard to make, which is really nice.
Like this whole cast showed up super prepared. We only had 4 days of rehearsal and they all worked super hard. And I can't imagine this getting done with any other group. It's a 2-hour show. I think it's long for a musical. And so I'm impressed with everyone that has showed up and made this possible.
I just learned all the material first and just got it in my head, made sure I knew what I was doing, what I was singing, what my lines were. Doing like stage readings and working on developing scripts, like you usually don't have a lot of time. So it's always important to me to make sure I've done my own work before I come in so I can focus on like the nitty-gritty things. Because I've been working on it for a while, I had my own idea of what the characters would say or sound like and like already made my own opinions about them. But then when we actually did the read-through, everybody did it way differently than I imagined.
Did you hear that?
We can't finish today.
We need more time to plan.
We have no time.
Because everybody did come in so prepared and so kind of excited about it, we really were able to spend less time on like the plunking out the notes and more time on put the story together. How do your characters interact? Like, how do these scenes affect the overall story? Like you, I try to carve out time for talking about those things because I feel like when actors understand their character, then they're able to make choices through blocking, through facials, through things like that I otherwise would have had to tell them. And so I, in a roundabout way, I feel like it almost saves you time to spend that opportunity talking about the characters, because then the actors can make choices that you may have had to provide them later on.
I was really kind of overwhelmed at first with the part and how vocally demanding this part can be.
It was really exciting because, again, I haven't done a musical in a long time, but everybody brought their A game. I was very impressed with everybody and how they showed up, especially considering that we had 4 days to get it together.
With only 4 rehearsal days, the cast had to learn 2 hours of music as efficiently as possible. But not only that, this would be the show's reveal to the world. It was equally important that the cast sell the audience on the story. by bringing their characters to life.
Audrey was she was simple, but also so complicated. Like, she has this very simple dream of like, oh, I want to be an actress. But then what comes with that is all that insecurity and the doubt and, oh, I'm not good enough, or, oh my gosh, that person's so much better than me. So what seemed like a very simple task was actually so much more.
Oh yeah, here's where we get into the part where I read the description for Melody because I didn't know too much about what was going on when auditioned, right? But when I really read into the character, her story, I was like, is this play written about us? Like, is somebody watching my life? This is really freaky.
At those other camps, you might sing someone else's songs. I didn't have that in me. I just did not belong. I had my music to write, my own things to express.
So I put a whole lot of myself into Melody, and I think I even gave you unsolicited advice on Melody's character development, because I was like, she wouldn't do this, Joe. Like, what, I wrote this character. I'm like, you don't understand, I am her. Melody is an underprivileged, passionate artist, and she's very aware of her position, and she's very aware of the impact she wants to have. I know that it's kind of unheard of and not realistic for someone in my position, in my financial situation, to want to be an artist and a singer. And at the same time, from the bottom of her heart and her soul, she knows this is her calling.
That yearning for something more, and to know that you have a voice, and you're just sitting there going, I have something to say and I have no way to say it. You have something you need to express and it just feels trapped in you. And that's the beauty of her getting to go to Camp Creator, because it's her getting to get all of that out and get her voice out into the world, and she finally gets to explode into this eruption of passion and say, this is who I am.
Through singing, I found a joy I've never known. My heart aches each time I can't sing its song.
I think my biggest takeaway is to just let go of yourself into whatever role that you're playing, and I ended up having a really fun time playing Melody, and I put a lot of myself into her.
But after that, it was just like, okay, let's bring everything together and put it all in the space.
Welcome to Homewood Theatre. Thanks for being here tonight. We're really excited to showcase this work to you. So we've been working all week with our cast to do a little stage reading for you.
Hi, my name is Bailey. I played Mr. Zims. I was so nervous when we finally got to the day of the performance too, because the whole week I was like, I hope I'm getting my notes right. I don't feel like I'm getting this right. And I was like, remember I was sitting in my apartment, just listening over and over and over again, going, do I know this as well as I think I do? I was shaking in my boots, because I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I care about this so much, I don't want to disappoint Joe.
It was finally showtime. There was no time left to prepare, so Joe simply sat down and watched around him as the story that used to be just a little spark in his heart finally came to life, and the characters that once were just in his imagination were finally personified by an amazing cast of like-minded artists. The show was finally something real.
When the songs you feel cannot be sung.
Great job, all of you. Seems like y'all are finally following in my footsteps after all.
But it wasn't just a performance for the people in that room. The show was filmed, and editing footage and going back to Nashville, Tennessee to mix the music were still ahead.
So I'm a mix engineer in town. I do plugin development as my day job, but Joe approached me this project, and we know each other from college, and I was really excited. I've not worked on a musical. I don't listen to a ton of musicals. This was a really fun challenge for me.
We were pretty sophisticated overall with, 16 different channels of audio all separated out, 4 different video signals.
The 4 angles I had were all very different. And so my handheld one, I was in the front row. So that was very clearly, I was always able to point it where it needed to be. And then with the wide, that's just a trustworthy, full, shot of the entire room.
But most of it was just lining up all the footage, lining up all the audio, processing it, choosing angles. And it was really pretty straightforward. It was a live show. It was one take. So as we edited it, there was no room, as I worked with the mixing engineer, and in post-producing, there was no room to be like, well, let's really try to craft like the most perfect version of this track. It's like, no, this is live. This is what they performed. And I think you can feel the performance bleeding through in a way that you wouldn't get if you comped 100 vocal clips together.
Joe wanted to be very organic, and people were very intentional with their performance volume.
It's musical theater, and so we want to really make sure that it stays dynamic, and I think that was something we ran into. I think there was definitely like a balancing act of not doing too much in the edit to suppress the dynamics that the performers brought to it.
The video for the staged reading was released on March 27, 2026, and the album recording of the reading was released on April 17th, only a couple of weeks later. Camp Creator was finally ready for the world to see, and it all began with the passion that everyone in that little room in the Homewood Theatre brought to the material. It was no longer just a show. The story spoke to what it meant to be an aspiring artist, and that's something people were finally starting to connect to.
There's so much about this experience that I loved and enjoyed, but I think the thing that sticks with me most is the universality of the story itself, and how on one hand it speaks to me as who I was growing up, and it still speaks to me now.
So many young people, when they want to be a musician, they want to be a rock star. They want to get a Grammy. They want to, they want a certain kind of fame and music. And it's like, well, what do you have to say? What songs do you want to write?
It's the age-old question of like what makes a true artist.
The show has had a bigger impact on me than what I originally expected, and I think that because kind of ever since like we first read through it, and even just the first time hearing the music, it really connected to my spirit and my person, my soul, whatever corny nonsense you want to throw in there. But it deeply resonated with me in a way that I haven't really found with any other piece so far. And there's so many layers to the story itself that I think so many people can find connection to. But I think because it is so focused on authenticity and individuality, that it makes people feel like they feel heard and goes, yes, that's me. Someone gets it.
There's something kind of universal about it. I think if you write something like true and real, and like as we talked about with like it being a story about, it's a story about following your dreams and passions and kind of asking yourself, like, do I have these variety of skill sets, and do I have them in enough of a quality that I can produce something of quality? When there's money on the line, as it is with Melody, where there's like, this is like a chance. This is kind of like will I get this opportunity again? I mean, these are things that, like I said, are true to real life. And I think if you do that in your art and you stick to a truth, like it's going to resonate and stay in the conscious of a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of little nuggets throughout the musical. It's like, I kind of relate to that. Like, I wish I had learned some of those lessons sooner.
Yeah.
There's so much nuance and layering to the story you've already crafted that allows for so much analytical breakdown. It's so ripe for analysis and picking apart. And that's part of why I loved it so much as such an analytical person, not just the deep emotional impact, but as someone who cares about kind of understanding literary pieces more. You really created such an interesting world and such interesting characters that kind of goes, how can we pick this apart and where's the meaning in it?
Walt being from this wealthier background and being this conflicting force in Melody's time at the camp, I wanted that to be at the forefront because I think it's relatable, and that I think played a role in like Walt, where he's very flippant. He's like, whatever, man. Like, my dad's a rich music producer, and like this camp doesn't mean much to him. Compared to Melody, where it's like, well, this is everything.
And then she finds herself in this camp full of people that are either somewhere on her level, but majority are more privileged than her. And she's like, whoa, none of these people are appreciative of what they have. They don't realize it. And that is insane to me. So she's trying to make the most of everything that she's given.
The main character of Camp Creator, Melody, the aspiring singer, is emblematic of something more than just being the lead of a musical. She is the epitome of a true artist, on her journey totally dedicated to expressing herself, despite so many barriers. Despite other campers who didn't understand yet that art wasn't just a commodity, but that it was for communicating.
This is a show that is new and different, and also the story is so relatable to young people and trying to find a place where they feel like they belong and a place that cares about them and their art. And so I am excited to hopefully get more from this show and maybe eventually get it on our roster of things that we could do here with our students.
Because it's a show about younger artists, of being like, hey, you don't need to have perfection. Like, you can be messy, you can be insecure, you can be scared, but that doesn't mean like you're any less of an artist just because you're young.
And I think a lot of people are going to connect to this story in a way that they've not connected to something before, because that's how I felt about it. And I know if I felt that way, someone else will feel that way.
I think you should always try to put yourself out there and share with the world, because you never know who it'll resonate with.
But I think there was something so special about this piece that it's one of those things of when you know it's there, you can't put your finger on it, you can't necessarily describe it. But this was one of those pieces of it was something. It has something. It's got that thing that people talk about, that there's like, you don't know what it is, but it's there. It's got it, whatever it is. And it's just it's nice to feel a part of that and a part of such originality, because even doing other stuff that has been original, it doesn't have that spark that this ignited for me. And I gush about this show all the time because it is that special to me.
Yeah, I'm thankful for everyone who's collaborated, and the cast and Lexi for making this possible as well, and for reaching out. Because yes, it's my vision. Yes, I have something to say, but I'm aware that all your collaborators can bring their own authenticity to the project as well. If they understand what you're going for, then they can bring something that you wouldn't have brought yourself.
No, I just want to reiterate that this was a great project because it was so collaborative. Like, that was...
Not just for my community, but any communities out there of aspiring artists and aspiring performance artists, to see people doing things like this, where we're doing independent projects, we're writing our own stuff, we're performing it, we're actually being able to put ourselves into the characters. We're putting ourselves more in a circle than a box, right? I think that is incredibly inspiring, and I think that it might be my controversial opinion, but I really think that if we want the future generations to have a fighting chance to be able to be their authentic selves, we've got to start showing them examples of that to look up to. So that's why I'm really excited, first off, to share, because it's like, hey, look at this thing I was a part of. It may not be Broadway, but we did this ourselves. Isn't that pretty cool? And it's local to you. You could do this too.
I don't have any delusions. I won't say the B word about where this is headed. Don't get me wrong. But I think that this is a story about young people, and I think that I think definitely pitching it to different schools and even community theaters, I think that's absolutely the space for this kind of show. But it is something that I think is specifically for young people and should be put on by teenagers, et cetera, because that's who it's about.
Like, if you speak something that's true and you speak it well, it'll resonate with people, and people will want that. And people do crave, even in this crazy world of ours, I think people crave the genuine.
It was just nice to be a part of something original.
I'm excited for people to see your work on this one, and I hope they enjoy the live reading.
And I really look forward to seeing what happens with this show next.
If you haven't seen Camp Creator, if you haven't heard of it, go look it up. It's 1,000 out of 10. You will love it. It has a piece of my heart. It's going to have a piece of yours. Go eat it up.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Lexi, for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this and to share everything with just the cast, with this group, and with Homewood in general.
Can I do a quick cast photo?
Yeah, get everybody together, yeah.
The staged reading for Camp Creator is now available to watch for free on YouTube or to listen to wherever you stream music. Stay tuned for more from Joe Kendrick by following him on Instagram at joek.media, on TikTok at cuppajoe99, or checking out his website at joekendrick.weebly.com. Thank you for watching the journey that Camp Creator has taken so far. Camp Creator has something to say, and Joe Kendrick hopes that more and more people will hear its message.